What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan back here with another edition of the Sheehan Show. And today I'm joined by special guest Brad Wharton as we look ahead to Cage Warriors 131, which goes down only in a couple of days over in the UK. No trilogy this time, Brad. Obviously, we got Cage Warriors commentator Brad Wharton. I should have introed you like that. No trilogy this time, but we have two events and we're looking ahead to the first one today. Few days out now. Well, maybe around the week out now by the time we're recording this. Anticipation levels, the last of the year. It's a good time for MMA events, isn't it? Few weeks out from Christmas, get that last MMA event in, and then we're all set, ready for Christmas.
Yeah, it used to be great doing the old New Year's shows at the Helix, but, I think doing it early December means everyone can have a couple of drinks and a nice big Christmas dinner and not have to worry about any weight issues going into the new year. So, yeah, it's good. Nice little early Christmas present for European MMA fans.
Indeed, yeah. I think I was around for maybe one or two of those Helix ones. I was more of the UFC guy back then, but I was like, not doing it. Like, I think it's great for watching it at home when you're inside and you're having a few drinks and stuff, but actually going to the event and cover it and everything like that, I don't think it's the best. But this is the time of the year. October, November, December, I think is perfect time for MMA, and even coming into the new year again. But we have a couple of fun cards coming up here. I think, like the last time we spoke, we kind of briefly mentioned, I suppose, before we get into the card, how Cage Warriors would rebound after, Paddy Pimblett and Ian Gary both went at basically the exact same time, over the last few years. Obviously, we've known from Bisping to Hardy to McGregor to, Jack Shore and all them lads going to, Nathaniel Wood and, Neil Seary and everyone you could name over the few years leaving. New people have to emerge, and I feel like coming into this card, it's been a little bit under the radar. But even I talked to Oban Elliot last week, looking at some of the fights coming up here, watching some of the fighters to prepare for this. I've kind of got the buzz, and hopefully we can create a bit of a buzz for people here today as well. But how are your anticipation levels, I suppose, coming into the fight this time?
Yeah, it definitely feels a little bit different this time. Obviously, it's two shows rather than just three. And I think the main difference is obviously there's a lot more MMA going on in the world now than there has been over the past couple of years. So yeah, we're kind of we've had a week off with the UFC, but we're kind of back in that cycle now of like big events every weekend. But I think, personally, the last sort of week or so, been doing my final prep and, just interacting with social media people that I know who are Cage Warriors fans. The anticipation is building now. And like you say, the likes of Paddy and Ian Gary have moved on to the UFC now. So there's going to be a lot of guys, I think, on this next weekend coming up who are going to be looking to make a statement and say, hey, I'm the next guy for Cage Warriors.
I want to concentrate here on the top three fights, and we'll talk briefly about the undercard as well, and the other one and the main card. But I want to talk about that Oban Elliot fight first of all that I mentioned there. I think that might be the standout fight of the weekend. I think it's a fantastic fight against Madars-Fleminas. Having spoken to Oban, he seems like in a great frame of mind at the moment. He seems like a guy who has kind of put all the bad things about his health issues behind him, and he's really in full steam ahead to where he's going. This is a tough matchup though. We're talking about George Hardwick in a second. I watched George Hardwick versus Madars-Fleminas just this morning before we did this, and he's a very, very good fighter, a really, really good fighter. What's your take on this matchup with Fleminas, but on Oban Elliot as well?
Well, look, Fleminas is a guy who, if we think back, he was in that welterweight tournament. So that kind of shows you how highly he's regarded and his sort of position in the pecking order. Obviously ran into Jack Grant and was submitted there, but there's no shame in losing to Jack Grant by submission. If you look back at his previous fights, he's super awkward, really hard to get a read on in terms of the stand-up. And you've got to believe that that's going to be Oban's game plan, right? He's a boxer by trade. And he's going to be going in there looking to plant one on Fleminas' chin. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can get Fleminas' movement patterns down, get his timing down. And look, there's a lot in this fight for both guys. You know, Fleminas is a guy he's got a good record. He's a big step up for Oban, but he doesn't want himself pigeonholed into this gatekeeper position. And to take out a huge prospect like Oban Elliot, who's got a lot of hype behind him and has a presence on social media, that's a big scalp for Fleminas. So you best believe that, you know, he's not wanting to drop one here. And for Oban, you know, the issues he's had have been well documented. He came back against a very big welterweight last time, looked the part at welterweight and made a huge statement. He needs to carry that momentum on now. You know, he's got designs, as we said, of being that next guy for Cage Warriors. And, you know, you talked about it when you interviewed him last week about, you know, being the next big star. He's got all the tools inside the cage. He's certainly got them outside of the cage. He's going to beat guys like Fleminas, though.
It's funny, I speaking to the odd time I'd put up after a Cage Warriors card, I put up I want this fight or something, and then I get like a DM for Ian Dean, like, hold your horses, that guy is not ready there yet or whatever. And it feels like, you know, this matchup is one of those ones where maybe, oh, is he ready? Is he there yet? And even talking to Oban himself, he said he didn't realize, you know, the amount of experience that Madars-Fleminas actually has. And it's a big step up. And obviously, you know, Ian Dean knows a lot better than me or you. And if he believes he's ready for that step up, then he definitely is. But yeah, to me, that's definitely a standout fight on this duology, as I like to call it, of cards. And I'm really, really looking forward to that. As I said, you know, I've said on that video, and I think Oban could be the next guy coming through, but he could also lose this fight, you know, because Fleminas is absolutely no joke, as you said there. And I'm really, really looking forward to this and seeing how it goes. But yeah, it's a good way, I suppose, to start the top trio of fights here. So one part of obviously a Cage Warriors weekend that we always look forward to is the lightweight title portion of the weekend. Obviously, Joe McColgan gave up his lightweight title, and now we have George Hardwick versus Mehdi bin Lakhdhar. You know, we're talking about fun fights. This is fun fight written all over, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Mehdi's kind of been that guy who's been ready for a title shot for some time now, which is weird when you think that, you know, he's only, I believe, 6-0-1. But, you know, the guy's obviously a high-level operator. I know he's got a lot of boxing background as well. He told me a couple of Cage Warriors events ago that he likes to keep all the footage as far away from social media as possible, so no one can do their tape study on him. But, you know, we've seen what he can do in the cage. He's lethal with his hands. And Hardwick, you know, he's one of these guys who's come in sort of towards the end of the trilogy era. You know, we'd obviously seen a lot of him before on the UK and European scene, and he's come in, he's stopped two guys in a row, including former featherweight champion Dean Truman. He stopped with that body shot, and he's instantly put himself in this position where he's a contender. You know, I think if McColgan had kept the title, we'd probably be seeing Ben Lakhdhar versus McColgan first. But this is a great opportunity for Hardwick. You know, the ball's been left and he's picked it up and run with it. So a huge opportunity for both guys, and something to really look forward to as well is that, you know, it's very likely that the winner of this fight will fight John McColgan at some point next year. And, you know, that's a tasty scrap either way.
Obviously, you know, I haven't seen bin Lakhdhar against McColgan. Anyone who's seen that fight is looking forward to a Mehdi bin Lakhdhar fight. How could you not? I suppose he's just one of the most exciting fighters around. And when you look at George Hardwick as well, like, it's this, you know, I mentioned fun fight. I suppose it's hard to call this anything but a fun fight. But if you look at bin Lakhdhar, okay, he has 6 fights and Hardwick has 9 fights. It's not that much of a difference. But I feel like, apart from the Joe McColgan fight, maybe I feel like Hardwick is maybe a little bit more schooled in terms of, you know, he fought in the big Bellator card against Richard Kiley, and he's fought, you know, all around the place, and his brother is in there as well. I think maybe people might see Mehdi bin Lakhdhar as a little bit ahead of George Hardwick, but I think maybe that experience level and stuff might bring it a bit even. Like, this is one of those fights where, you know, it felt like Mehdi bin Lakhdhar was being primed to be kind of a Cage Warrior champion and be brought there, but he's not getting it easy. He's absolutely not getting it easy here, and it's one of those matchups where, you know, it's hard to pick a winner here, and I wouldn't be surprised whoever comes out on the top end of this one. But yeah, it's a really, really fun fight, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. But You know, just one thing on French MMA, because I know there's a few French lads on this card and throughout the weekend as well. You know, we've spoken on past previews before about I suppose French MMA and where it's come from. But a few words from you on that, like the guys coming through there they're really, really good and with French MMA kind of becoming, legal now, I suppose, if you want to put it that way, and before there was lots of fights where it was mixed rules and not proper MMA rules. It's really a great time for French MMA now, where we can kind of get the cream of the crop from France coming through.
Absolutely. If you look at the challenger in the main event, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, Djati Melan, he's been fighting for many, many years. And you look at the first couple of fights on his record from the 100% Fight Show, and there were 2 5-minute rounds, not full MMA rules. That's what these guys have had to deal with. As a result of that, a lot of French fighters have traveled the world, and they've got used to fighting guys in people's backyards, used to being the away fighter, and that prepares you, going through the ringer like that. So it's great for those guys to have that experience of traveling, and they're not used to only being the home fighter really in their careers. But it's great now that MMA is legalized in France. If you saw Cage Warriors president Graham Boylan's tweet a couple of weeks ago about adding a new country to the list of Cage Warriors destinations, I mean, I don't know, but if I was a betting man, I would assume that France has got to be on the list, right? I know they had announced a show in France 2 years ago before COVID hit. There was a prospective date in France that Cage Warriors did actually come out and announce. So it would surprise me greatly if France wasn't in the plans for next year. So a lot of these guys, again, Mehdi Lakhdhar and Djati Melan, they're going to be wanting to get a win at this Double Trouble event and take a Cage Warriors belt back to France and defend it on home soil next year.
100%, yeah, and it's a big time, and as you said, with Sharia coming through as well. Like if you can get him on the card, maybe against the winner of the hopefully the featherweight title fight that'll be coming up between Hughes and Vucinic in the new year, maybe next summer, that could be massive as well. Because we know about his following. We've spoken about that before, but yeah, it's a big time for French MMA, and hopefully Cage Warriors have always done great things in Europe, and hopefully that's the next destination. But you mentioned the main event, Djati Melan versus Matt Bonner, and watching a bit of, I obviously Matt Bonner, we've seen him in Cage Warriors for a good while and winning the title and everything like that, and the people he's beaten in the last while have just been phenomenal, and maybe he's taken a step over where everyone could have imagined he'd go in his career. Real overachiever, and sky's the limit now, and there's no such thing as overachieving for him anymore, I don't think, by the way he's fought. But looking at Melan, I fought in Cage Warriors a few years ago, and I went to watch that fight just to kind of get a sense of him. And sometimes you're watching a guy and you're like, oh, this guy's a really good striker, and what kind of strikes he gonna go next or throw next, and then you see this big double leg takedown in the middle of the cage, and you're like, oh shit, he has that too. He really is one of those fighters. And for anyone, but for someone like Matt Bonner, if you're looking at him, you're thinking like, okay, what's coming next? And it just makes for a fun matchup, because we know Bonner, he's stand up and him on the ground as well. He an all-around very good fighter. But give us your sense for both of these guys, and what type of a matchup you think this is going to be. I think it's a tricky one for Bonner, isn't it?
I know exactly the takedown you're talking about. I think it was like a straight left hand and then instantly into the takedown to set it up. So it's good to see, guys at this stage of their career operating on that kind of smooth level where they're mixing things up with the striking and the takedowns. Always dangerous. Look, I think the thing about Melan is he's a bit of an enigma, right? Because he's got 7 fights and he's averaging basically 1 fight a year for the last 7 years. So there's a couple of interesting things there. You never know how much he's going to have improved since you last saw him. The other thing is he's not got 7 years worth of wear and tear on that body. Unless there's been some serious injuries that we don't know about, he's going to be really fresh. And, Bonner's had a huge strength of schedule, right? He's competed very, very regularly. On the flip side, I think Matt Bonner's one of the most probably unlikely champions that Cage Warriors has seen over the past few years. And that's not a knock on Matt at all. It's just that if you look back to the start of the trilogy era, he was 6-1 and coming off a loss in 2019. So you would not think that 18 months down the line, that guy's going to be 10-6-1 and the world champion. But that's testament to Matt. It's testament to his tenaciousness, his toughness. his skill set, the team he's got around him, everything's clicked, and he's riding a huge wave of momentum. He's only looked better, in my opinion, across the trilogy. And why would you expect that to change against Milan? I think the crucial difference between these two guys is that Milan has never gone into the championship rounds before, and we've seen Bonner come on strong. So there's an unknown quantity with Milan in that 4th and 5th round, whereas we know Bonner can go, and he can actually turn up the heat as the fight goes on. So I think this fight will be decided in round 4 and 5.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and to kind of round out the card with those 3 fights, I think is a fantastic way to do it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll probably be doing my betting preview. Hopefully the betting odds will be out by the time, but it's. And those are 3 tough fights. If you're looking at betting, those are 3 tough fights to bet on. I like thinking about it now. The betting lines aren't out yet, but it's hard to know even where the betting lines will be in all of those. I would think Bonner will be a bit of a favourite, but maybe that's because of, as you said, there isn't that much video there of tape to look on Milan, and it's one of those where if he comes in there with that double leg at the start after landing a couple of shots, you could be thinking for Bonner, he could be in trouble here, but as we've seen in these last few fights, there's it's not that easy against Bonner, so it's a really fun fight, and I'm looking forward to it. On the undercard, then I suppose we finish it off looking at some of these fights. Names on that: Liam Gittins versus Kingsley Crawford is the standout one for me. John and Dye, I know you've a soft spot for John down through the years, and Tom Bearns as well. What couple of fights stand out for you? I know Luke Riley's on the card as well in his second fight. There's a few from Next Gen, a few from down in London as well on the card. Which couple of fights stand out for you on that undercard?
Well, you've got Yassine Belhaj versus Danilo Buado. Danilo we've seen before, and Yassine we've seen before. Both very exciting guys. So that should be kind of an all-action fight. Really looking forward to that one. And you mentioned it, Jean Ndoye versus Tom Mearns. Big difference here for Tom Mearns is that he's fighting at featherweight again. His coach, Danny Batson, has been telling him for a long time, you're a featherweight, you need to be at featherweight. But he's had work commitments and life commitments outside of the cage that's meant, he's just not been able to focus that much on getting that weight down, and he's been competing nearer to his natural weight. The results haven't gone his way in Cage Warriors recently. That's a fact. But he's gone to the Cage Warriors Southeast Academy, picked up a big win there. He's back down at featherweight now. For me, Jean Ndoye has been one of the pound-for-pound most entertaining guys on Cage Warriors over the last 10 years. And we know Tom Mearns loves a fist fight. So that should be violent. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this whole card. Brad, I appreciate the time. We'll have a look at Cage Warriors 1-3-2 as well. But for now, 1-3-1 going down. It should be a really fun card, and I'm looking forward to hearing your commentary as well. It's nice to have someone with a bit of knowledge in the commentary box for once. Brad, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for listening. I will see you all next time.